In today's video, I want to talk about magnetism, biology, and the quantum phenomenon, and whether there is a connection in all of this. It is a bit easier than it may sound. The video that I'm making today is about the research and an article on geomagnetic navigation and what might be the intelligence behind all of this. Geomagnetic navigation is what allows animals, or what is believed to allow animals to know where to go, to have this map of the world and know where to migrate and where to go without having any sort of technology, like in the case of humans. Humans navigate the world using technology, using compasses and so on and so forth. But in the case of animals, it becomes like an instinct. So scientists for a while have believed that the Earth's electromagnetic field has an effect in them, but this has been really hard to confirm. Now, some recent experiments are showing that indeed magnetism has a quantum effect within the cells, and what's interesting about this research is that they used human cells. So does the question arises, does this magnetism has an effect in humans as well? What else don't we know about the electromagnetic fields? As I've spoken in previous videos, I've been talking about a larger field of consciousness, what is called as quantum consciousness, or the quantum field of consciousness, and how technology like magnetoencephalography is showing that our thoughts protrude outside our brain and go outside in this magnetic field. Now, if the electromagnetic field of the Earth has an effect in biology, a quote-unquote quantum effect in biology, in the biology of animals, and as is shown in this research in human cells, the question that I pose is a larger one. Could the electromagnetic field of each being, of their thoughts, affect each other? And I talk about some examples that I've used in the past, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. We know that the genetic information within them has this code to create these schools of fish or this flock of birds. But what is the intelligence that tells them to move at the same time? Sometimes within 100 of fish or 100 of birds, they move at the same time, up and down, without any sort of verbal or sign communication, which animals do not possess. Could it be that the electromagnetic field of their thoughts, of their brain, all this information which becomes like one blob, one entity, is communicating at the same time? Now, the implications of all of this go beyond, and it starts tying into some of the ideas of quantum immortality and some of the other theories that I've discussed in this channel, like the orchestrated objective reduction, which speak about downloading information after death into a larger sort of database. Before I move forward, I would like to remind you that if you want to join the growing discussion on consciousness and would like to be notified on the latest scientific discoveries and theories surrounding this topic and how they connect to ancient mythologies and philosophies, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as I'll try to upload at least one video per week as I continue with the outline. Alright, so today I'm going to be looking at this article from January 11th, 2022. This is roughly 1 year ago, 2 years ago, making this video in 2022. Scientists confirm quantum response to magnetism in cells. University of Tokyo scientists observe predicted quantum biochemical effects on cells. If we go a little bit further into this, the main points of this article. This article is some big thing. This is a very good mainstream media sort of site, sort of blog, but it's a lot of articles out there. But all what I like about this is that most or all of the articles that they post, they have an actual scientific publication to them, a scientific research to them. I'm gonna be linking those in these videos. Well, cellular autofluorescence is magnetic field sensitive. You can go to the University of Tokyo, to the main webpage, and they talk about the same thing. It's sort of the same article, a little bit of a graphic here, how exactly what they're going to be talking about. I'm going to be going into it in just a second. So all of these links, you can find them below. Just to confirm, all of the videos on ongoing research, this playlist of a rational divine outline, are always going to have some sort of publication, some sort of research tied to a scientific publication. So before I begin with the whole thing, I want to get a few things out of the way first. And I want to apologize for my voice being a little bit raspier than usual. This is because I'm coming out of a long cold, it seems. Secondly, one of the reasons why I make this video is because in the previous video I was talking about memory. I'm going to link the video somewhere in the screen. All the videos can be found below if I am not able to link them on the screen. I was talking about memory and how we have believed that memory is stored in the brain, somewhere in the brain, and then we go to the memory and we pick it back up and we kind of search for it in some sort of archive in the brain, and that's not the case. That's not the happen. Even in that article and that research, the neuroscientists who are talking about these things are saying it just doesn't work like that. What we thought about how memory works, it just doesn't work like that. In reality, what is happening is that we encode memories at a molecular, cellular, synaptic, and circuit level, as they call it. It's the whole thing. When we reach a memory, the synapses fire, everything fires again, like we're reliving the situation in lifetime. We go and we feel the emotions, and everything is happening at a molecular, cellular level. Now, my whole argument with that video and the whole thing that I'm proposing here and that I've been going into in the last few videos is the idea that there is a quantum field of consciousness, and consciousness is not isolated to the brain, nor is it created or originated in the brain, but rather the brain is some sort of a filter. And I've been doing all sorts of videos about this. I'm going to link them somewhere below, tied to the orchestrated objective reduction theory with Penrose and Hammer, so on and so forth. So sometimes when I'm sharing my work, I get some comments, some counter arguments. Sometimes people are very hostile, and I sadly have to block a lot of people, but I've been getting a lot of positive feedback as well. And in between all of those, I got a counter argument which I thought was quite interesting. Somebody commented in a social media platform, and they said, stop using the word quantum, or something along those lines. Stop using the idea of quantum information, it confuses people, so on and so forth. And I thought, given the fact that we don't really know, we have no conclusion about what quantum physics really mean, what the originator of quantum physics is, or what is going on in the quantum world, we really have no idea. The scientists are fighting each other for theories, so neither do I have the final answer, neither do this person on social media who is saying I'm confusing people. So I thought, what a great opportunity to delve deeper into this idea and this relationship between cells, between molecules, biology, and the quantum world. I made a video about this before, a couple of them actually, where I talked about how there are quantum effects in the DNA of our bodies, in the very building blocks of what makes us who we are. And this is a very exciting field that is growing a lot, and a lot of people have started to make these experiments relating the quantum effects, the quantum world, the quantum phenomenon to biology. And so the reason why I keep digging into the connection between the quantum phenomenon and biology is because the main issue with quantum physics is whether consciousness is involved with the quantum phenomenon, which is what the double-slit experiment seems to suggest, despite that a lot of scientists are very dissonant about this. I'm going to link a video on the screen. I made a video about this. There's been some recent or newer information about the experiment, which could help us get better conclusions, and I talk about those in that video. I'm going to link it somewhere on the screen. As I said, I'm running out of videos because there's a lot of things which are connected to this, and so everything is going to be below in the description. So, as a brief summary, as a brief conclusion, what I'm trying to find out here is if consciousness is involved in the quantum phenomenon. As Einstein said, there seems to be a higher being, a higher intelligence behind the whole thing, and there is quantum phenomenon inside the cells of our bodies, inside our very DNA. And like, I'm gonna be looking into this article here in magnetic fields of the Earth itself, and perhaps even the magnetic field of each and every individual being on existence. Then consciousness is behind everything. our very reality, the way our bodies manifest, the way our bodies react, the way their bodies communicate with each other in a non-verbal way. And with this, we start tying all of what the ancient scriptures used to believe in, and this idea of a larger network, a larger force, which in previous times was called Brahman, Atman, or Bill of Maya, or the kingdom, or the spirit, or the soul. And now we have the technology and the acuity to understand what's the real thing behind all of this. Alright, so scientists suspect quantum effects are behind animals' ability to perform geomagnetic navigation. Geomagnetic navigation is believed to be light-based. This light-based is something that I'm very interested in, because in ancient scriptures, in some of the ancient scriptures, it was said that we will be like lightning. And I've been finding in ancient scriptures, modern reports, and some of the research, this very enigmatic thing about the light. And how you think about near-death experiences, people are seeing this quote-unquote light that is everything, that is everywhere, and so on and so forth. There seems to be more to light itself than what we think, but I'll be looking into that in the futures. Researchers watch as magnet-induced quantum changes affect cells' luminescence. And we go with the theme of light here, so there's something going on with this. So in the previous video, I was talking about a school of fish. What's the intelligence behind the school of fish? How does a school of fish work? A flock of birds. When all of these animals come together as one, as if they are one mind, without touching each other, without verbal communication, because animals cannot speak, and even if they were making noises, they're not making noises when they're in these formations, in these flocks or these schools. So what happens is, when an interference goes in, like another fish, or like a seal, or like a scuba diver in a school of fish gets close to them, all of them react simultaneously at the same time. The same with a flock of birds, when they're flying upwards and then suddenly all of them go downwards, and then sort of like the blob of birds compresses itself and then it expands like some sort of a blob, like it's become higher intelligence. We are trying to figure out what is the intelligence behind all of that, and this is just a simple phenomenon that is very common in nature that I find amazing. I looked into it in the previous video a little bit. I'm gonna link that video somewhere on the screen. I talk about how we seem to be living in a matrix of information, and I tie a little bit into the simulation theory and so on and so forth, based upon that research which suggests we encode memories at a cellular level. So I'm talking about all this is information. If we want to call it quantum information, perhaps that would be the right way to do it. As I said, that person said to me, don't talk about quantum information, confuses people. Then what are we talking about here? So what they found in the research of why do these fish create these schools of fish and so on and so forth, is that it is in their genes. It is encoded in this genetic information. Also in that video, I was going into how what are we talking about? We're talking about genetic information and how it transfers through the genes through generations, or whether there might be a quantum network of information, a larger network of consciousness information, and whether there would be a difference between these things. If we're talking about information which is passed through the genome, or information that exists perhaps outside in the world at large, what are we actually talking about here? We're talking about quantum information, we're talking about entanglement, then everything is part of the same thing, which is what people who have these transcendental states, these transcendental experiences through psychedelics, their experiences and so on and so forth, start talking about this, that this is what they are being told by these higher intelligences and so on and so forth. It seems to be the assumption, and the science seems to be leading towards this. So in this research, they are tying this possibility that there are quantum effects in the animal's ability to perform geomagnetic navigation based on the magnetic field of the Earth itself. But now, if every being has a magnetic field, could there be changes in behavior, in cells, in information, just based on that magnetic field? Now, stay with me for 1 second. I know sometimes I go back and forward in these articles and it becomes a little bit complicated, and if some of the people who are watching this have watched some of my previous videos, they know where I'm going to here. So as I said, this is talking about the magnetic field on the Earth. Now, one of the questions that I posed on that previous video talking about the school of fish is, okay, so science tells us that these fish have information in their genome. And this is what makes them, create schools of fish. But what is the intelligence, as I said, that makes them move at the same time in real time? How is this communication happening? Now, if magnetic fields have an effect in the information within our bodies, within our cells, which is what this research that I'm gonna go into in just a second is showing, could it be that the magnetic field created by the thoughts of these fish be communicating at the same time within the whole school of fish? Like, they literally become a higher mind, they literally become a higher, a larger, let's call it not a higher, but a larger being when they are in this formation as a flock of birds or as a school of fish. Now, in one of my previous videos, I talked about magnetoencephalography and how we have the technology now to read the thoughts from our brain without even touching it, meaning that the processes in the brain and the information goes outside our skull, presumably into this larger field of consciousness of information. Now, one of the counter arguments that I had there was, oh, these are not thoughts, this is just the magnetic information of the brain. Well, what exactly is this magnetic information then? So in this research, I'm gonna link it somewhere on the screen. As I said, all of the links are gonna be below. In this research, some of the research that they were conducting to test this magnetoencephalography was that they were showing people brands of ketchup. So they were showing the colors, they were showing the shape of the brand, and then people have these mental processes and they look at these colors, they look at the brand, at the shapes, perhaps the emotions that a brand of ketchup or ketchup itself has on them. If we think about North American society, you think about sports and going and eat hamburgers and hot dogs, whatever, I don't know, and they tie this ketchup itself to perhaps some emotional reaction having to do with their family members and so on and so forth. So all of this is a mental process, all of this is a thought process. So while this is happening within their brains, these machines, which are not even connected to them, they're not touching them, they are capturing all of this information and looking at where is the brain finding all these synapses, all these what they were calling this at a circuit level, these cells, these molecules, everything that is happening in the brain, it's being recorded, which means that all of this information, it's happening outside of us as well. It's protruding outside of our skull, is going into something else. So what's happening in the brain is just the firing of neurons, the firing of all these things. And what's happening in the qualia, in the perception of the person, our thoughts, our mental images, our emotions. It is consciousness itself. This is consciousness itself, and it seems to be within us and outside of us. And some of the ancient scriptures said the kingdom is within and all around. It's not in the sky with the birds, it's not in the fish with the in the sea with the fish. Quite interesting that comes to my mind, because I'm talking about a school of fish and a flock of birds, but it's within and all around. And it seems that perhaps these are not just allegories. This is something that goes beyond, and we are barely beginning to understand. So if our thoughts are going outside, perhaps they can be picked up by others just through this magnetic field. This might be what's behind intuition, what's behind all of these things, and what's behind how this school of fish or this flock of birds actually work. Perhaps our thoughts are going outside, and we're talking about quantum information. Just to briefly try to understand what would be the implication and the impact of all of this, thinking back into the orchestrated objective reduction theory by Penrose and Hameroff, they are saying what all of this research is showing. all of this research is fairly new, as I said. This is 2021. I've seen some others from 2015. This Orquart theory is way older than that. And now all of this research is tying into it and is building upon it. So what they're saying is this quantum information within the cells in our brain, within some of the cells in the brain. So this research that I was talking about says that we encode these memories, perhaps I would call it at the quantum level, quantum information. Where is it? What is it? What are we talking about here? Is it the neurons? Is it the synapses? Is it the molecules? Is it the cells? Where is it? What is it? What we're talking about here is quantum information. This quantum information which creates the memories, which creates the qualia, because this quantum information, perhaps the very information in the genes, it's the code for our qualia, our perception, and consciousness itself. At the moment of death, what they're saying is that it goes into the universe, into somewhere else, into perhaps a database, what is believed to be the Akashic records in the New Age philosophies. We're tying all these philosophies with science. The implication is immortality of the information of a human life. And perhaps not only human, but life itself. So I'm like 20 minutes into the video and I haven't even started the article, but as I said, these articles are something that is helping me create a pragmatic philosophy, which is my end goal with the outline. One part of the outline is to bring up all of this research and all of this information. The other part is the interpretation and creating a pragmatic philosophy out of it. As I've been saying here, they're thinking only in terms of geomagnetic navigation, so why the birds go north or so on and so forth, in relationship with the Earth's magnetic field. But the implication of this and of the research could go even beyond if we connect all of the previous research and all of the things that I've been looking into this channel. So okay, we know at this point that there are species that can navigate using the Earth's magnetic field versus stability and the long distance migration, and the list of such species keeps getting longer now, including mole rats, turtles, lobsters, and even dogs. It's this larger network that is all of life. But exactly how they can do this remains unclear. We don't really know what's happening here, and if we think we know, we don't. Scientists have for the first time observed changes in magnetism prompting a biomechanical reaction in cells, and if that's not cool enough, the cells involved in the research were human cells, lending support to theories that we ourselves may have what it takes to get around using the planet's magnetic field. As I said, yes, we might be able to connect to the Earth's magnetic field and get some information, but what about more than that? As I said, the implication is not only this theory, the implication ties to other theories as well. And it would explain things ranging from near-death experiences and the out-of-body experiences that people have in those situations, to the psi phenomena, to remote viewing and the intuition itself. So the research is published in PNAS, National Academy of Sciences, as I said. I'm going to put the link somewhere. Autofluorescence is magnetic field sensitive. Just a few things that I want to point out. I'm not going to go to the whole thing. You can go to the whole thing if you want the actual hard data, hard facts right here. But I'm talking also about the implications. This is why I like the creativity from these articles, which are not too long and they go to the meat of it, to the main important things of it. So the one thing that I want to look at here is biological effects of magnetic fields have been a major topic of interdisciplinary debate by researchers from a diverse range of research fields for many years. So this is this is a discussion, nothing in science. So I talked about dogmatic science and how people say, oh, what does the science says as some sort of an abstract concept of science. Science is not final. Science is redefining itself. Science has experiments showing one thing and experiments showing a contradiction of that very thing. So when we start to interpret science and come with a pragmatic philosophy. That's my interest with this channel. Behavioral biological studies have examined animal magnetoreception, in which a wide range of animal species are capable of sensing and in some cases extracting directional information from the geomagnetic field. So this is what the science is showing. This is what the interpretation is, that they are extracting directional information from the geomagnetic field. So going on with this, how do they extract information when they are in a school of fish or on a flock of birds? Are they getting it from the earth itself? When there's some sort, for example, in a school of fish, when there's a scuba diver going in the middle of this school of fish, all the fish move at the same time. There's no verbal communication. There's no sort of communication. There's no signs. Fish do not make signs. What is the intelligence that communicates within them? It might be the very magnetic field of their thoughts, of their senses, as they become this larger energy, this larger intelligence, which perhaps acts as one, like a beehive, like all of these things. Since the verification of the hypothesis involves electron spin effects, the majority of fundamental research has been conducted by chemists and physicists, and it has recently been positioned as quantum biology. So as I said, the field of quantum biology is growing, and all of these things are looking into it. All of these experiments are looking into it, this connection between the quantum phenomenon and biology. So when people tell me, oh, well, you don't understand quantum physics and so on and so forth, then what are we talking about here? We're talking about quantum information. Call it quantum, let's just call it information. Let's just don't even call it quantum. I mean, we know that at the basic level, all of these strange things are happening, like superposition and these spin effects, which are modified, and the behavior can change with magnets themselves, and the double slit experiment, all this weird stuff. In the quantum world, it also applies to biology, to the cells, to the molecules. So when I'm talking about in the previous video that we encode these memories at the cellular, molecular, synaptic, and circuit level, are we talking about just biology? And if we put in the quantum question, then we don't know what we're talking about. We're talking about the quantum information within a biological entity, which the realm of quantum biology and the branch of quantum biology is starting to seriously study. Alright, so far I've talked about some of the implications and some of the larger theories and how it all ties to a larger thing and to something more complex than what they make it to be in this little article. So I'm gonna go into the meat of it, what's actually happening here. I'm gonna be brief about it, because if you really care about the very specific and the very mechanics of this, you can go, as I said, to the actual research and so on and so forth. So the phenomena observed by scientists from the University of Tokyo matched the predictions of a theory put forward in 1975 by Klaus Schulten of the Max Planck Institute. Schulten proposed the mechanism through which even a very weak magnetic field, such as our planet's magnetic field, could influence, keyword influence, chemical reactions in their cells, allowing birds to perceive magnetic lines and navigate as they seem to do. So, the Earth's magnetic field is tied to the biological entities. They say about this connection between Mother Earth and the beings that inhabit it, including ourselves. There seems to be this connection and could influence chemical reactions. And this is about geomagnetic navigation now, as I said. Could the magnetic fields that each of us generate influence each other, just like the fish in a school of fish, or the birds in a flock of birds, or perhaps intuition itself? When you know that someone is lying, you know it 100%, and you have this intuition. Could there be this non-physical, non-verbal, non-material communication happening, having to do with magnetic fields that we generate, that our thoughts generate? Perhaps Schulten's idea had to do with radical pairs. A radical is an atom or molecule with at least one unpaired electron. When two such electrons belonging to different molecules become entangled, they form a radical pair. This is the whole idea, that when these electrons with these particles at the micro level come into contact with each other, they react to each other even if they're separated by long distances, which means that they are connected somehow, the quote-unquote spooky action at a distance. Since there's no physical connection between the electrons, the short-lived relationship belongs in the realm of quantum mechanics. Brief as their association is, it's long enough to affect their molecules' chemical reactions. The entangled electrons can either spin exactly in sync with each other or exactly opposite to each other. In the former case, chemical reactions are slow. In the latter case, they're faster. Previous research has revealed that certain animal cells contain cryptochrons, proteins that are sensitive to magnetic fields. There is a subset of these called flavins, molecules that glow or autofluoresce when exposed to blue light. The researchers work with human HeLa cells, human cervical cancer cells, because they're rich in flavins. That makes them of special interest because it appears that geomagnetic navigation is light sensitive. We go back with the theme of light. When hit with blue light, flavins either glow or produce radical pairs. What happens is a balancing act in which the slower the spin of the pairs, the fewer molecules are unoccupied and available to fluoresce. For the experiment, the HeLa cells were irradiated with blue light for about 40 seconds, causing them to fluoresce. The researchers' expectations were that this fluorescent light resulted in the generation of radical pairs. Since magnetism can affect the spin of electrons, every 4 seconds the scientists swept a magnet over the cells. They observed that their fluorescence dimmed by about 3.5% each time. They did this as shown in the image at the beginning of this article. Their interpretation is that the presence of the magnet caused the electrons in the radical pairs to align, slowing down chemical reactions in the cell so that there were fewer molecules available for producing fluorescence. The short version, the magnet caused a quantum change in the radical pairs that suppressed the flavin's ability to fluoresce. Let me read it again. The magnetism, magnetic fields that every being generates, and even the earth generates, caused a quantum change, a quantum phenomenon, which we believe is only quantum phenomenon, is whatever. It's the double-slit experiment, it's the building blocks of reality, the quantum phenomenon in the radical pairs that suppress the flavin's ability to fluoresce. So we're talking about cells. We're talking about biology. It's a quantum change in biology caused by a magnet. Okay, maybe I'm gonna make us trying to skip all of this, maybe, because it's quite complicated. But what's important is what comes next. So just finish the article and to fully understand why this is important and what are the true implications of this. I'm going to finish the article. The University of Tokyo's Jonathan Woodward, who authored this study with doctoral student Noboru Ikeya, explains what's so exciting about the experiment. The joyous thing about this research is to see that the relationship between the spins of two individual electrons can have a major effect on biology. A quantum effect, which is this, can have a major effect on biology. So the quantum phenomenon is tied in a major way to biology, to our bodies, to our cells, to even, as I said, and as I'm gonna link it somewhere on the screen, or you can find it below, as I made that video, even in the DNA, in the building blocks of reality itself. Just to repeat, because I know I lose a lot of people throughout these videos, but the ones who make it so far and start thinking about this and start reading on this on their own hand, you know, I'm just gonna drop this right here. I don't like to go into the pragmatic philosophy as I go, but I've been writing these books, and I'm planning in a way to introduce them, not with the main videos in this channel, but maybe as something different, or exclusive videos perhaps for people who actually follow what I'm talking about. So in the Gospel of Jonas, I believe, one of the apocryphal, it says, "Those who understand this will not taste death." All of what I'm talking about is tying to this, is tying to quantum immortality. I'm gonna be going into it in the future, but just just capture this moment here and just to bring back why is it important. What we are seeing here, and the joyous thing, as the head of the study says, is to see the relationship between the quantum effect, the spins of two individual electrons can have a major effect on biology. Now, I'm gonna open my channel right here because, as I said, I've talked about this before. So I made this video, can we affect our DNA through mind control? Yes, this is what seems to be happening. There's this idea, and then from that video people were saying, what are you talking about, you're crazy, and so on and so forth, some of the negative comments that I got. So I went deeper into, are there studies that are confirming these quantum effects in biology? Well, there are. I chose a bit of a bad thumbnail, perhaps this is why this video didn't do so good. Spooky science in our living cells, the basics for a quantum consciousness theory. Study confirms quantum mechanics play a role in biological processes. Now, as I said, all the videos in the outline are gonna have all the videos on ongoing research. This playlist within a Rational Divine outline are gonna have a link to an article and then to a research paper. So if we go to the article right here, new research reveals that quantum physics causes mutations in our DNA, our very blocks of reality, what makes us who we are. So if you wanna go to the actual research, it's right here. Go into this video and then look for the research if you want to read through it. But what I want to bring here is what Dr. Marcus Sacchi, the head of the experiment, had to say. Just very much like Jonathan Woodward, he says that joyous thing is the relationship between these quantum mechanics and a major effect in biology. It sounded so similar to when I read this from Dr. Marcus Sacchi, the project lead and Royal Society and University Research Fellow at the University of Surrey, said, many have long suspected that the quantum world, which is weird, counterintuitive, and wonderful, plays a role in life as we know it. This is what we are talking about here. And if we manage to understand and to prove and to see the connection between consciousness, the observer effect, and the quantum dynamics, the quantum phenomenon, as Einstein said, there's this higher being, this higher intelligence behind the quantum phenomenon. There's got to be something. Then we might find the key to what's really going on. The idea that something can be present in two players at the same time might be absurd to many of us. This happens all the time in the quantum world, and our study confirms that quantum tunneling also happens in DNA at room temperature. So you go into the whole thing. So just to finish, he notes we have not modified or added anything to these cells. We think we have extremely strong evidence that we've observed a purely quantum mechanical process affecting chemical activity at the cellular level. Quantum process affecting chemical activity at the cellular level. Quantum physics causes mutations in our DNA. This is cellular, the micro level within our bodies, the very foundation of who we are. So, in that video where I speak about memory itself and how we encode it at the cellular, molecular, synaptic and circuit level, memories, the qualia, the thoughts, the shapes, the emotions, what are we talking about at cellular level? Are we talking about only biology? No, what seems to be happening, what we seem to be talking about here is quantum information. So of course a lot of people when they hear, I'm not sure how I'm gonna name this video, but I wanted to name it Quantum Woo, W-O-O, what is called to ridicule some of the people who start to tie the whole idea of the quantum phenomenon with consciousness, or a quantum reality, a quantum field of consciousness. Are we getting the basis to truly bring out these theories and to truly talk about these theories? Or is it all woo? Is it all nonsense? We have the evidence right here, and this is what I'm doing in this channel. So now, to go back a little bit and just to finish up, because this video is already too long, but as I said, this is part of me making this pragmatic philosophy and sort of leaking it into these videos that are supposed to be only about showing the news and showing the latest research. I do a little bit of interpretation here because it's important to understand this article does not talk about magnetoencephalography, does not talk about how the school of fish or flock of birds really work. Doesn't bring all of this. I'm bringing it because I've been going on a link, you want to call it a rabbit hole, a link of ideas, a link of videos that are building towards these larger theories like the orchestrated objective reduction theory. So now what we're saying here, the magnet caused a quantum change in the radical pairs that suppress the flavine's ability to fluoresce. So if we go to the actual, it's sort of the same research, but they had this little image right here, this little sort of GIF, which I really like, which is what happens. All of these cells create this autofluorescence, and when the magnet goes, it dims it just for a second and then goes back. So magnetism affects these cells in lifetime. So whenever the magnet crosses it, it affects them in real time. Now, when we think about what is magnetism, just to go back here, I want to find a paragraph so we know where we are. Scientists suspect quantum effects are behind animals' ability to perform geomagnetic navigation. How? With the Earth's magnetic field. If we go to Schulten's theory, Klaus Schulten of the Max Planck Institute, Schulten proposed that the mechanism through which even a very weak magnetic field, such as our planets, could influence chemical reactions in their cells and to perceive magnetic lines and navigate, as they say, the connection to the Earth, the connection to these magnetic fields has an effect in their cells. This is what is being proved here with this. And it's when they pass, they do it over and over and over. They pass the magnet and it creates this. Now, what are thoughts? Let's bring that question forward. What exactly are thoughts? I've been criticized and so on and so forth, where they told me, oh, these are not thoughts. This is just the brain's magnetic field. What is a magnetic field really? Is it information? Is it intelligence? When we think about the fact that every being generates a magnetic field, when we think about how magnetoencephalography works, as I said, all the links are going to be below if I haven't already linked them somewhere along this video on the screen. If this magnetoencephalography picks off the magnetic field of our thoughts, which are just protruding outside our skulls, presumably into the larger field of consciousness, perhaps every being does this, and there is that connection that people who are going through near-death experiences, through psychedelic experiences, through out-of-body experiences, and so all sorts of other experiences are talking about these out-of-body experiences. That everything is connected, everything is one, and it becomes more than an allegory or more than a nice thought to have. Or how psychologists in the 1970s, they coined the term mystical psychosis in the 70s. The first person account of psychotic experiences that is trying to mystical experiences. People just had mystical experiences out of nowhere. And they had this idea of oneness, that everything is connected, and these ideas of God and so on and so forth. As I said, this happened in altered states of consciousness all throughout the scriptures. When people meet angels, when people meet these beings or these gods, they talk about the same thing, and some of the same information is shared with them. Now we have replicable ways to do this in the realm of psychedelics, and they're coming with the same stories and ideas. What all of these ideas of this unity, of this connection, science is bringing forward, and it seems to be talking about the same thing. But now when we are digging deeper, we are starting to find out that it's all tied with brainwaves, it's all tied with magnetic fields. And this is a question, this is an open question that I'm bringing in. So it's been proved by this, and the assumption is that this is what the magnetism of the Earth itself, this information of the Earth, which is probably everywhere, can affect the very biology of all the entities that inhabit it. As I said, even in dogs, it says here, even dogs, turtles, rats, lobsters, could it affect us? And could our very magnetic field, our thoughts, affect others? The implications of this would explain psi, would explain near-death experiences, would explain everything that I've been talking about in this channel, and this seems to be the case. But as for now, I'm just gonna have to leave that as an open question that is gonna make us think, and in the future I'm gonna keep delving into these fields of study. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. A Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it'll help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.